everyone. Welcome back to Getting to Know You. This week's guest is Mike Wessa, parishioner at St. Catherine's, but I would argue single-handedly keeps the building together. And we'll get into that more. He's a very, what I know about Mike is he's an incredibly generous person, very giving of his time and anything that he has, really. So I was anxious to talk to him. We got to talk to his wife, June, a while ago now, but hadn't gotten to talk to Mike yet. So Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing great, John. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a good time because as you mentioned, I do a lot down at St. Catherine's, and I just finished about an hour and a half of stuff down there, hanging some plaques for Father Jack Fern in the community room, and having a little issue with our plow right now.
Right. Yeah, you were telling me about that yesterday. I mean, every time I talk to you, you got something going. That's not about your personal need. It's about the need of the parish or the community or something. So it's quite a spirit you have. So before we get into that, tell me about you. What do we need to know about Mike?
Well, I don't know. I got into the service area of helping with people. Partly my family was 6 kids. I was the second oldest boy of 3 boys and 3 girls. Mm-hmm. And my dad was the sole worker. He worked for the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. We in Waukesha. We initially lived in Milwaukee over on 42nd at Silver Spring. But my dad got tired of the commute right before the summer before I started kindergarten. So I was 5 years old at the time. We moved out to the north side of Waukesha, about a mile from downtown, and we're members of St. Catherine's or St. Joe's Parish in Waukesha.
Sure.
And I just remember growing up, going to St. Joseph's School for grade school, and then I decided, I don't know exactly who inspired me, but I decided to go to the seminary for high school. And rather than going to the diocesan seminary, I had gotten a visit from a priest from the Divine Word Missionaries. And they had a high school over in East Troy at the time. And I decided to go there, because I was intrigued by the idea of a missionary order. And long story short, I went through high school, college. After I graduated from college, the Divine Word Missionaries offered me and 4 of my classmates a chance to go over to Japan for 2 years as a teacher in the junior high school and senior high school that the Divine Word Missionaries administrated over in Nagoya, Japan, which is about 120 miles southwest of Tokyo. Wow. And I stayed there for 2 years, 1973 to 1975, came back and continued on with my studies, going to novitiate with the Divine Word Missionaries, which was based in Bay St. Louis, which was the first seminary that was for African-American boys who wanted to become priests in the United States. It was founded, I think, in 1962, something like that. And so anyways, we had our novitiate there, and it was a separate building from the high school seminary, but we interacted with the kids and different things. And it was a year of learning about the Divine Word Missionaries.
Sure.
So at the end of that, I took temporary vows as Divine Word prodigy, or not prodigy, prospective candidate. Sure. For the year. And then
how would you describe the charism of the Divine Word?
The Divine Word is very much involved in working in third world countries. Japan was an exception at that time, although they were still in 1973 to 75, were recovering from World War II.
Sure.
And, but it was a situation where I was intrigued by the various priests and brothers that would come through the seminary, both on the high school and college level, and talk about their experiences, what they did in the missions, things like that. Most of the missions were India, Southeast Asia, various parts of Africa. They were in Ghana and Kenya at the time. I don't know if they've expanded a little bit since then, but it was very much charism of working with underprivileged people.
Sure.
And so I continued on after novitiate for a year at Catholic Theological Union in Chicago, which was the combined theological seminary for about 8 or 9 orders that didn't have enough seminarians to staff their own schools, like prior to Vatican II, where they were having 40 or 50 candidates for the priesthood by themselves.
Right.
So at the end of that year of studying, I took a CPE course, and the purpose of the CPE course is to work either in a prison setting or, in my case, in a hospital setting. There's other situations too that you can apply for. But one of the things, I was not so certain whether I wanted to continue on. And one of the things that I was struggling with was, do I want to be a brother or do I want to be a priest? And I felt as though I was called to the priesthood, but I was really scared about giving homilies every Sunday, things like that, because I didn't feel as though I was a very good speaker. And as a young person, what did I have to give to the congregation wherever I was serving?
Yeah.
So that's basically my background. At that point, when I finished the CPE, I went back to Catholic Theological Union and talked to our rector, and he was sort of my spiritual director as well, and told him that I had decided that I was going to leave the seminary and go on in some other capacity. And he actually had a brother who was working in construction down in the Chicago area, and said, well, I can talk to my brother and get you a job. And I said, that would be fine, except that I need a place to live and stuff like that. So I guess I'm going to go back to Milwaukee area and live with my parents in Waukesha until I can
Figure it out.
get settled somehow.
Yeah.
So that's the background. One of the things that when I was in the seminary in high school, for the 4 years that I was doing that, the janitor over at St. Joe's grade school asked if he could hire me as summer help to scrub floors in the schools, wax, paint, do whatever was necessary, do some repairs. And he was a great resource for me, as well as my dad, who initially got me started, because since I was the oldest boy and he had lots of projects around the house, he would let me work with him or give me something to do. 2 of the projects I remember were putting new brushes in his Sears and Roebuck Craftsman drill in the days before you didn't just toss out the thing and buy a new one. And another thing he gave me was, we had a 3-way lamp and the switch had gone out. So he bought the switch and he told me, see if you can figure out how to wire it. And I was in the workshop with him, and he watched me as I did it and helped me. So I enjoyed working along with him.
I did.
And,
I did the same job. You know, floors and cleaned after school at St. Anthony. Like, but I did not learn any of the skills you learned. In fact, I painted some walls that to this day people are like, did a kindergartner paint those walls? I learned very little.
Well, once I got out of high school, went to the college, Divine Word College at Epworth, Iowa. I was initially introduced right away to Brother Henry, who is the maintenance supervisor of the college, because of my work experience of mopping floors and taking care of stuff at the high school level. So it sort of blossomed after that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then your family, you want to say much about your family?
Well, my family before I was married, or my current family?
Your current family.
Okay, my current family. I met my wife, June, about 2 months or so after I'd left the seminary. I was looking for a job, and when I had done my pastoral education program at St. Joseph's Hospital in Milwaukee, I was working with the secretary to the chaplain. Her husband worked with Visiting Nurse Association, and so I just kept in touch with her every 2 or 3 weeks, stopping in at the hospital and telling her what I was doing as far as job searches. And this was before the internet. This was in 1978, and I looked through the Sunday want ads for jobs and try to get interviews for different jobs. The day that I was over there in September, my wife, June, had been taking the CPE fall program. And I had time before I went to my Mark's Big Boy assistant manager application at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And so I went to Mass, and she was playing the guitar at the Mass. And I went up to her later after Mass and told her that I enjoyed her music and that it added to the liturgy. And she asked me a little bit about myself, and I told her I was in the seminary, and she had offered to take me down to the cafeteria, since I didn't have to be at Mark's Big Boy until 2 o'clock, and have lunch with her. And so we got talking. Turns out that she had been in the convent as a junior sister for 2 or 3 years. And it was the same founder of the Divine Word Missionary Order. He, about 8 years after he founded the men's order, he founded the Holy Spirit Sisters, and she was a member of that order. So it turned out we had a lot of different people that we knew that were common. And so, long story short, we dated for about a little over a year, and I gave her a ring the following year at Christmas time and asked her to marry me. And we got married May 31st of 1980. Shortly after that, in 1983, we had a daughter who's Jessica, and she's now 39 with her husband and 3 grandkids. And 2.5 years later, we had another daughter, Elizabeth, who's also married now with 2 grandkids. And nice thing about it is that they're real close by. Liz and her husband and family live a block away from us, and Jessica and Carlos and their 3 kids live 5 blocks away. So during the pandemic, it was nice to have our little pod of people. And I had good fun with the grandkids,
Yeah.
even though, you know, COVID was
Oh,
raging, and we
yeah.
just managed to stay safe. And
I ran into you in the park once with one of your grandkids.
yeah,
Your
yeah,
house. Yeah, yeah. I appreciate that role of grandparent. It seems like a good gig that I hope to have one day.
yeah. It's to me, it's a nice, relaxing type of interaction to worrying about problems over at St. Catherine's Church, or problems with our couple of rental properties that we own, and that type of thing. So
It's a life-giving relationship, right?
it is, it
Yeah.
is.
Let's transit. I'm very curious. Because I don't think everyone knows, and I know people at St. Sebastian's don't know. I know people at St. Catherine's do know this, but I want to talk about kind of the role you play at St. Catherine's. And we've talked a little bit about faith, about your time in the seminary, but I think that your dedication to St. Catherine's is motivated by faith. So feel free to talk about that too.
Sure. Uh, in 1978, September of 78 was when I joined St. Catherine's, and then June joined me a couple of months afterwards as we started dating. And we both lived in the Sherman Park neighborhood. I was in an apartment over off North Avenue on 50th Street, and she was in a duplex on 45th off of Center. And it just seemed like it was St. Catherine's was a nice fit. There are a lot of people. Back when we first started, there were about 1,100, 1,200 families.
Yeah.
A lot of them have moved since that time, as the neighborhood has transitioned more to an African American neighborhood. But we were comfortable in staying in our house over on 56th Street off of Center Street, and try to be good neighbors. And we have good neighbors. And it seemed like, in one sense, living where we live in Sherman Park, it's sort of like the goals that I had when I was in the seminary of working with underprivileged people. And one of the things that we've been able to do, it's the couple rental properties that we have were motivation to help have some money to help with tuition when our girls went to college. And that worked out, but it was also a chance to offer decent, affordable rates for people who weren't middle income. Most of our renters are people who live on Social Security or have service jobs that most service jobs don't pay a whole lot. And so it's a way for us to give back to the community that way. And then over at St. Catherine's, we really have blossomed, I think, with combining with Blessed Trinity. Blessed Trinity made such an impact with the people that came from Blessed Trinity and joined to make the current St. Catherine's. And they're dedicated people to the choir and to working with the food pantry and supporting St. Catherine's School. It's sort of nice that, in one respect, that Seton takes care of the administration of the school, because that was always a headache for the principal to have to fill teacher position roles and things like that.
Right.
So,
but you do so much physically, like you're changing
yeah,
the bulb or climbing up
physically, yeah, physically, I'm on the building and grounds maintenance committee. And with my background in doing various things, I can take care of small electrical problems. I can take care of small plumbing problems. Uh, I've
Plowing,
patched our
you talked about
I've
plowing.
patched our stupid flat roofs. If anyone has flat roofs over at St. Seb's, you probably know they leak like sieves after a while. And we have the two side aisles of the body of the church are flat roofs, and they are a constant source of uh, paint chipping off the inside of the church and little moisture getting in here and there. So take care of that type of stuff. I do pretty much anything that I can there. I also, we have a little Jeep Wrangler with a plow on it,
Yeah.
and I take care of the plowing with the Jeep. I guess I've sort of taken that on as I've been retired now for 5 years, but I work with the other guys who do the lawn care during the summertime, and they also will help out with shoveling or running the little snow blowers that we have to keep up if I need some assistance.
But
So
I'm not joking. Like a couple Tuesdays ago, you came to that Tuesday morning formation I do, and you had a light bulb in your hand, and you hold on 1 second. You get up on a chair, you're changing the light bulb. This week you came with a giant 25-foot snake that's sitting right by your chair as we're doing formation because you're going to do some plumbing thing after that. Like I
no,
love
that was Tony's son, Tony Wagner's son, who was trying to use it at her
Oh,
house because he had clogged up the sewer drain or something like that. So
anyways, I know the people of the community know and appreciate all that the selflessness that you you serve the parish with. So thank you.
well, yes, well, thank you. I feel as though I've been blessed with good health, and I have certain knowledge in those areas, and I've added to that knowledge as I've gone along, especially owning our own house. We bought our house in 1980 here. We've lived here for 42 years now. And the house was built in 1927. So things happen in a house that old. And I figured I'm willing to try to fix it, whatever it is. And if I can't, I'll get the professional to come in. But what I found now is that YouTube is rather helpful with a lot of different areas, especially little electrical things that I can't figure out, like why the plow isn't raising and lowering right now. I think it might be hydraulic fluid that it needs, but I'm going to go on the YouTube after I'm finished with this afternoon and see if I can figure it out.
Never stop working. It's really clear to me as you tell your story. I mean, like you can kind of see your progression. You know, being working in maintenance in your church and learning those skills, and going to the seminary, wanting to have a missionary spirit. And look at you now, like, living in a community that you want to be integrated into and serve and see it as a service, and the work that you do at the church with the skills that you gained. I mean, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool.
It is. And the Divine Word missionaries, they do have missions parishes that they serve in the U.S. on the south side of Chicago. St. Anselm's, about 62nd off of Michigan Avenue, is one area that it's a Black community there, and they have missions down in Mississippi and Louisiana parishes that they serve down there, and out in the Latino area of California, they have some parishes too.
Yeah, very cool.
And what's also interesting is the Divine Word missionaries attracted a lot of refugees who came to the United States that were Catholic, and they settled down in the Louisiana area because a lot of the Vietnamese were fishermen with the Mekong Delta area down there and stuff. And they're strong, they have a strong Catholic background, and their number, I'd bet that there's 6 to 8 Vietnamese seminarians that are in Epworth right now.
Wow.
And they've also transitioned to teaching other nuns as well as seminarians from other orders that come to the United States, first of all, to study, but then also to learn English. They have a certified English as a second language program now. So quite a number of the seminarians or the nuns that come over to study are studying here to get a broader purview of their life and to learn English as well.
Cool. Yeah, that's very cool. Mike, my last question for you is, when you think about the future and kind of knowing the spirit that you live in, that you and June have cultivated, what do you hope for the future?
Well, I hope to continue a lot with what I'm doing. Let me. My phone was ringing there. You might have heard it in the background.
Right.
I hope to continue to be involved in these different spiritual things that are going on in the parish. The John Gospel that we just studied the last 8 weeks, and that I found that was very beneficial. I've had a fairly extensive theological background, but I really do need to take more time, I think, to polish up my spirituality a little bit. As sometimes I think I get involved in too many activities that make me neglect that a little bit more than I should. So
I would argue that you live your spirituality through your actions.
I do, but it also can sometimes seem to be it's a way to keep myself busy without also going a little deeper into my spirituality. So I am going to be going on the retreat that the St. Catherine's guys are going to, the Redemptorist Retreat House, on April 8th to the 10th.
Yeah.
So that'll be a nice, quiet type of reflection for me. One of the things that was a very powerful experience for me when I was in novitiate was I did get to participate and complete a 30-day Ignatian retreat.
Yeah.
And that's had a profound experience reflecting back on that throughout my life. And I think that's also influenced me to be the type of person that I am.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So a hope to continue growing.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So,
but I think also that the generations that are coming up behind you look to you as an example of how to live spiritually. So, know that.
I hope that's the case. I hope that's the case.
I think it is the case. I really do. So, Mike, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate giving me the time, but also just your generous spirit you give to St. Catherine's, and just the person that you are and your whole family. So thank you. This was a pleasure. Okay, well, thank you for asking me yesterday if I'd be willing to do this. You're very welcome. It was a pleasure. Have a good day. Blessings on your journey. And you too. Thank you.